Morning, MGTOWs. This is Vention. I've just drinking my second cup of coffee here. Well, getting it ready. I usually wake up at like 3 in the morning during the week, but today is Saturday, so I slept into like 5. And now it's 7. It's starting to get light out there. Just beginning, well, yeah. So I think I'll just do a quick channel update. Tell you what I've been up to lately. A few, I've recently got a fondness for this jasmine rice. You guys know that I'm sort of into preparedness and all that good stuff. I don't go crazy about it, but I like to be prepped. So I bought a few more bags. You know, you never, I mean, this stuff will last in the bag about 5 years. So we're going to be in good shape if the zombies attack. Today is Saturday, as I was saying, and I think what I'll do is continue taking out the blackberries. I'm not sure if it's bright enough to really see out there, but I knocked out about 60% of them a couple weeks ago. And it's pretty easy, actually. I did it in my shirt sleeves. It's all I did was just took my Combi System hedge trimmer and just knocked them down to about 18 inches tall, and then ran them over with the riding lawnmower. So it's a pretty good deal. I planted these two little planters out with some spring mix. Maybe I'll get a couple salads out of it before the snow flies. The tomatoes have produced all they're going to produce. They are not happy in the cooler weather of October. I don't think we'll ever see these things ripen. Thing doesn't give up though. It's still got some blossoms on them. So it's basically fall. The grape wall that I've been building is a lot better. It's produced. It hasn't produced anything, but it's gotten some foliage up. I think next year I'll be able to get a whole wall and then build a little trellis across the ceiling, about maybe 8 feet in, about from where I'm standing. So then I'll have like a roof over this area, and it'll block the hot sun, so it'll be a nice, comfortable place to hang out in the summertime. Then, and once it starts producing, it'll be producing grapes and dropping the grapes sort of hanging down into the living space. And you can pick grapes and snack on them while you're kicking back in your chair after work. I do believe that is awesome. Channel update. Otherwise, you guys are aware that I've been saying for quite a while that we're heading into another Great Depression. Basically, we've just come out of the recession of 2008, and basically the let's see. Pardon my appearance. I haven't. I'm not really an appearance guy, but okay. We just came out of the recession of 2008. Basically, you dropped down into it for about 3 years, maybe 4. Then you bottom probably around 2011. Then we climbed out again between 2011 and 2015, right? We pretty much maxed out this year. And I was saying, as you guys are aware, I've sold my condo, my rental condo, because in my opinion, the property values have maxed out, even in the Seattle area, and we're about to start nosing back down into the next recession again. So what I have done, or what I've been doing, is I've been shedding assets like the condo, and and I've been taking my money, my surplus income, and I've been splitting it pretty much between silver. I mean, good old-fashioned clinking metallic silver. Here's the last couple months I bought this, you know, but basically. Basically, this is an asset that is not likely to go any lower in value, because right now we are at the height, or well, maybe this summer we were at the height of the recovery, but now basically, let's see, this is silver right here. In 2011, at the maximum, the worst part of the 2008 recession, so people really were losing confidence in the conventional economic system, and they ran that puppy up to about $46 an ounce. But then in 2012, it started dropping back down in 2012, and right around, I think it was like summer of 2012, I cashed in at $34 an ounce for the down payment on my house, because the property values, they just freaking hit the bottom at 2012. And then they were making all these disaster movies about about the world blowing up, and it was the negative outlook of the economy had hit the mainstream. and basically silver was really high and real estate was in the toilet. So I bought this bank-owned house for $160,000, and I've been living here 3 years now. As the freaking place has gained about 100 grand, if you believe the tax man, and now we've maxed out on the recovery, and now we're about to dive back down into the next recession, and the economy will be going downhill for about 3 years if it follows the usual pattern. So this is 2015, 16, 17, 18. Right around 2018 we'll probably bottom out. Maybe 2019 we'll probably hit the bottom of this next recession, and it's going to be worse than 2008 because, man, multiple reasons. More debt. The interest rates are already at zero, basically, for banks, not for us. And basically, money printing has just absolutely gone ballistic. So you just can't count on on having any financial stability over the next 3 years. So we have hit the bottom as far as silver goes. Let's go back to and we are basically at like $15 an ounce, 15 and 16, 14, and there's no way that it's going to be going any lower than this, in my opinion. And so basically, I've been buying silver and bitcoins. We're in a situation where heading into a recession, man, silver's a great way to store some of your surplus income and have a nice emergency fund. And the cool thing about it is that that silver just it has this characteristic about it that causes it to go up in value when the conventional economy dives. And I generally get the just generic Sunshine Mint silver 1 ounce silver rounds. I get them at my local coin shop, and basically it's this is a form of wealth that will not get inflated away, but there is a danger like that the government could like confiscate it or something like that. But during in history, the only time governments have really confiscated silver is when there were large amounts of silver or gold in the currency, the nation's currency, and and then basically there was just an enormous amount of wealth to be seized. But now, gold and silver just are not that popular. Not a lot of people own them, so seizing that amount, that wealth, will not really be that profitable to the country. Uh, but basically, they'll do sort of a backdoor seizure. Like right now, they've got a really high capital gains tax. Uh, so if you make a lot of money, like if silver goes to $100 an ounce and you cash it in, you'll probably owe like 25% of that shit to the government. it's Unless you, of course, do some kind of the common tax evasions that all the wealthy people do all the time. Well, if you do want to do some of that too, you can avoid paying that 25% by maybe doing Craigslist or something like that. But that is a personal choice that individuals have to make. Do we follow the law when the law is set up so completely unfairly to men and not men, just people who are who are not the ultra wealthy elite types? Do we follow laws that really are not set up to benefit us? They're set up to basically control and corral and utilize us as tax cattle. So I'll leave that up to you. Silver has done really, not very good. It's at the bottom, near the bottom, and the bankers don't want our currency to be anything other than something they control. In fact, there's recent news of Federal Reserve officials saying that we need to ban cash, and that way people can't pull their money out of the banks just like they did in Greece. And then they would be able to do things like bail-ins and seize and charge us fees for keeping our money, even though we're forced to keep our money in the bank. Yeah, they're freaking control freaks, and the only thing they want is more. They want control, and they want everything we own, basically. So basically, Bitcoins, as I was saying, I'm still into Bitcoins. Just as I was into Bitcoins back in 2000. I mean, I was wanting to buy Bitcoins all the way in like 2010, 2011, 2012, but I was so busy with other things, I just never really got into it. Then the freaking giant spike hit, and then I had my face in my hands, and I was groaning out loud with horror and regret because I figured I missed the boat. And man, if I'd have bought back here, I'd be freaking rich. I'd be living on my own permaculture farm right now. But basically, I started buying when it was like 800 or so, after it fell off of the peak, and I just gradually started buying a couple $100 a month, all the way down through 2014. And let me tell you, I probably have maybe 30% of the money that I invested in 2014 as we started dropping down this giant freaking downtrend. But even as the price was dropping, man, I saw the potential of Bitcoin. How you can, throw $1 million in Bitcoins into your cell phone and then go to another country if you want, totally bypassing capital controls. And just it's like, and it's impossible for it to be seized by government. For example, in 2013 it was, I think, the country of Cyprus stole everybody's money out of everybody's bank accounts. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And right after that, people were so angry they discovered Bitcoin and they started buying it up, and they went from like $20 to 250. That was early 2013, and then it dropped off, and then it got into the mainstream media, and man, it just went freaking ballistic. But anyway, then it started dropping back down, and but I saw the potential. It's a kind of currency that governments can't seize and courts can't seize, and even the family court can't seize it. um, it is totally out of their control. The only way they can seize your bitcoins is if they seize you and throw your ass in a jail cell until you hand over the passwords, which is quite possible. That's why that guy, DaVinci J15, I think it was, he was into mining bitcoins back when it was practical to do so. Way back in the day, he was like mining bitcoins in 2010. He was a prepper into silver, and he told us all, and he was saying, "Get into bitcoins." And if I'd have listened to him, I'd be freaking rich right now, even after the drop off. Then his wife said, "Well, I just want to have sex with other men." It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. And she was just horny for other guys, and then she basically sicked the family court on him just because she could. She had the power, so she chose to abuse it. and 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 then basically he just said fine, and then packed up a few things, and when she kicked him out of his house, jumped on a plane to Chile, and then got an apartment there, and started resuming his online businesses, and getting back into silver. He bought a lot of silver in Chile back when it was like when bitcoins were like $800 an ounce. So a lot of that silver didn't drop down as much, although it did drop down during 2014. It went from like, let's see, during 2014, silver went from, let's see, 2014, it went from about $19 an ounce down to about 15. So yeah, not as much of a drop as Bitcoin. So that's the cool thing about diversifying assets like this, right? If you have a situation where suddenly bitcoins have been outlawed or something, you can then basically the asset that hasn't been outlawed or doesn't crash will still save a lot of preserve a lot of your spending power. So what I do generally is whichever asset is lower, I buy that. For example, if I have 10,000 in bitcoins and 11,000 in silver, I'll buy bitcoins that month. Okay, so not to bore you, during 2015, this year, we have reached a point where bitcoins have stabilized. However, let's see. And on top of that, volume is also increasing. For example, in 2015, it started right about here. You can see the volume. It dropped off when people were panic selling at the end of 2014, and the price dropped down as low as like effectively $200 a Bitcoin. But then, and every month I was just purchasing a couple $100 worth, and then it became fairly obvious that that the downtrend of 2014 had pretty much stopped. And then I've been ramping up my investment, and all this year, everything I put into it, it's all still with me. So, and I've probably at least doubled my investment that I've made all over this time. So basically, I'm in a situation where Bitcoins have stabilized pretty much, and we've in all of these troughs, I ramp up my buying, and in these higher parts here, generally my Bitcoin holdings go above my silver holdings, so I buy silver that month. So generally in these higher points here, I end up not buying Bitcoin, but instead buying silver. So it's a way of preventing you from wasting a lot of money by buying at the peaks of these investments, right? And as you can see, all through the year, we've had a gentle increase in volume. Okay, so there's also a lot of really good news in Bitcoin, and that's the Nasdaq Stock Exchange is going to be using Bitcoins to keep track of various things. Like, I'm not exactly sure how, but they're going to be utilizing the Bitcoin or blockchain technology to settle stock transactions, if I understand correctly. And then Overstock.com, a company that takes Bitcoins directly, they are also creating their own stock exchange, and a lot of these companies that, if they tried to actually register as a public company on a normal stock exchange, it would cost them insane amounts of money, and then they'd be subjected to these sharks who come in to basically short their stock down and then manipulate, and it's just not a great way for a smaller company to raise money. But with Overstock's stock exchange, they are going to be they're going to have a much better shot. And when stocks are settled in cryptocurrencies like this, or I think it's going to be in Bitcoin, then you can take your stocks and you'll basically have a private key to every share of stock or percentage of a share. And then if you wanted to transfer that stock to somebody else or some exchange or brokerage, you'd be able to just do it utilizing the software on your computer, which cryptographically signs each amount of ownership of a stock, and you can sell it directly with a handshake or just online with another person, and it totally bypasses all government controls, and there's no way that the feds can short a stock which is held in that way, and there's no practical way, and then it'll cause, it's just as good as having like stock certificates back in the day before the bankers got their hands on all these stock exchanges and manipulated the shit out of it. It's a way of taking back all of that power. So basically, as this occurs, we've had a gentle increase in the volume and of the transaction volume, and it's my opinion that as we drop down into this next recession, people are going to want a form of wealth, multiple forms of wealth that can't be stolen by banks or governments. So that's where I am right now. So basically, as we drop into this next recession, it's important to have of course, food and water, whatever kind of supplies you need, medical, vitamins, then of course currencies which are very resistant to government seizure and banker manipulation. And of course, it's a great idea to have some kind of means of self-defense. Like, basically, this is a well, it's a 9mm pistol, and I'm not the greatest shot, but I have lasers on pretty much everything I own. And if a zombie kicks in the door and says brains and whatnot, I can put the little dot right on his head instantaneously, and then basically pull the trigger and take him out. It's I'm not really fond of guns. To me, they're just sort of an appliance. They're just there because you may need them someday. But I am not really a gun guy, so to speak. But so basically, a means of self-defense, even if it's a can of pepper spray, and wealth that will prevent the bankers and the governments from just easily manipulating and stealing your wealth just by ordering the banks to hand over a percentage of your savings. And then of course, saving money in a bank is pretty much pointless now because you just don't earn any interest at all, and the only thing you're basically holding is dollars. And when nowadays the legal system is set up so that if your bank goes bankrupt, your deposits in the bank are considered legally just an unsecured loan to the bank. So if the bank goes bankrupt, then its debts will be settled once the FDIC runs out of money, which they don't really have any money. They have very little money to bail out these banks. So when that occurs, people are going to lose a significant portion of their money, and their money might be seized and then turned into like stock in the bank, and then the stock is going to go into the shitter. And dudes, I just do not trust that. I don't trust the banking system. I don't trust the stock market. I don't trust the economic system. I don't trust the government for any objectivity or any sense of fairness. Needless to say, MGTOWs are aware of how unfair the government is, especially to men. So basically, I want a way to disconnect and go MGTOW and do the Atlas Shrugged thing to retain my financial power in spite of government and corporate and banker theft. Now, of course, I have a retirement program at work from 401k, and I am exposed to the stock market. But basically, I want something also that is not so much exposed to the stock market. So let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? Oh yeah, my ultimate future plans. Let's see. My future plans, my ideal plans, are if Bitcoins do what I think they're going to be doing over the next few years, as people lose confidence in the financial system, and as we see banks and companies seizing money that doesn't belong to them, and more of that MF Global commodities thievery that we saw. Basically, once that occurs, people are going to want a form of wealth like Bitcoins or silver or gold that will basically resist government and corporate theft. And when that occurs, the price of Bitcoins and silver will, of course, be going way up. So I'm just in an accumulation phase. As long as I have a steady job, every month I will put away my surplus income in either silver or Bitcoins until the big, huge crash comes. And over the next 3 years, the price will be bid up. And if we reach a price of, let's see, right now we're at 281 because we've been having a nice little spike lately. If we reach a price of about $10,000 a Bitcoin, shit, guys, that'll be enough for me to retire on. And then I think I will build a little service truck and put my tools into it. Because even if I'm a millionaire, I will certainly still be a mechanic. A mechanic it's something you're either born to be or you're not. You know, if you are a mechanic, it's even if you're not working as a mechanic, you're still a mechanic. It's something that's up here, you know, and it's something you enjoy, you know. So my plan is to be a wandering mechanic all over the western United States, visiting permaculture farms and permaculture communities, and acting as sort of a wandering mechanic, and learning about permaculture and doing what I can to help our people disconnect from dependence on corporate manufactured regulation approved housing, which is basically a giant pile of kindling that could burn down in like a heartbeat. That's what government's like. They want you to live in a frickin' thing of kindling so that you can be burned out in a second. But you can disconnect yourself and move to a place where there's no regulations as to or building codes or anything. There are free places in the country, and in those places, I would like to build a really an extensive permaculture settlement, and maybe I'd have some people in as guests and sort of fellow travelers on that route, and then and of course I would just basically, I'd probably end up taking a few jobs here and there as like a freelance mechanic, you know, doing a few odds and ends here and there, but as far as actual working a 9-to-5 job, if we get a Bitcoin price of above $10,000, I don't think I will ever need to work again. So that's the plan. Ooh, man, this thing's been a half hour. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's my ultimate MGTOW plan. I'd love to hear anybody else's plans for what your future will hold and what you know, how you plan to get there. Dreams are all well and good, but having a plan on how to get there, that's also very important. So this is my plan. And if Bitcoins suddenly crash and go nowhere, we will still see a silver price spike during this next recession over the next 3 years. We're going to see it easily surpass 2011 because we are vastly worse shape than we were in 2008. And we're going into another recession that's going to be worse than 2008. And in theory, the reaction of people losing confidence in the economic system should drive the silver price up, especially because China is creating their own exchanges that are not led by the banker manipulation of the COMEX in the West. And basically, once that occurs, the banks will have a harder time shorting silver down to nothing, and then silver will become a much more viable store of wealth, and the price of silver should skyrocket a good deal past 46. And if that occurs, and I think it will, even if Bitcoins somehow go nowhere, silver should easily be enough for me to pay off my house and still have a lot of wiggle room, and then I could live like almost nothing with no mortgage on this house. Shit, all I'd need is the property taxes and some electricity and groceries and gas, and man, I could be socking away money at at an insane rate as long as I was still working at pretty much any job. Shit, I could go to work for McDonald's and still make ends meet if this mortgage was paid off. So, and I've got $60,000 left to go. Bought it for 160,000, but when I sold the condo, I knocked it. I actually, of course, paid more than 160 because of taxes and all that shit. Um, but but now I've got it down to 60,000, and just all I would need is a silver price of probably $45, $50 an ounce, and I could pay this house off. So that's also my backup plan. So, well, I guess I better let you guys go. I'd love to hear your plans too. Later.